Okay, from the top. My name is Kenneth Pass, and I have a few other names from ancient history that you may or may not be aware of or heard of. But first let me tell you what happened, so that way I can catch you all up to speed, because I've been here for 20 million years, if not longer. I was just a kid when this happened to me. I was just a kid, so understand this. I was just a kid, okay? This happened to me when I was a kid. I went to a summer camp. For boys and girls called Camp Mendocino. Camp Mendocino in Mendocino County, California, back in the early 80s. I went to this summer camp for boys and girls, and I went on to one of the activities. I'm playing with my meow meow. He's jumped up here. My kitties. I went to one of these activities from a summer camp called a 50-mile hike. I went on this activity called a 50-mile hike. We were going to be out there in the woods in Mendocino County, California. We were heading towards the water, the beach. And, we had the big 80s style backpacks, the big heavy backpacks from the 80s style. We had many clothes. We had many clothes because it was an extended stay of a hike, overnight hikes. And we had a whole bunch of food and cooking utensils in our backpacks that we carried, including our sleeping bag. So we start out on this 50-mile hike deep in the woods of Mendocino County, California, back in the early 80s. We were three boys, one little blonde-haired girl, two men staff members, and a female staff member from a summer camp in Mendocino. Our first day out, we're walking, on the little paths that we were to walk on. And we come across a dead deer laying in the middle of the little path that we were, walking on. And the dead deer had its eye removed. Half of its face was removed. Its stomach area, the skin, the fur on the stomach was gone in this one particular area. And there was like a thin membrane holding all the guts inside from spilling out on the ground. And kids, I'd never seen a deer before, let alone a dead one. And we're all like, ooh, look, it's a dead deer. And the staff members, they're in their mid-20s. They're like, back away from that deer, leave alone, it's dead, leave alone. And kids will be like, ooh, look, just being kids. And we kept on hiking, kept on walking. But the staff members at that moment were talking to themselves. That could have been an animal attack, a bear attack, but it wasn't a bear attack. Its eye was removed. Half of its face was removed, all the way down to the bone, and it was clean. It wasn't all chewed up. And, the stomach area, the fur was missing. And there was a thin membrane, and it was too clean. The animal looked like it had been wet, combed, very clean. And there were no tracks around, there was no animal scat, there was no animal tracks around. So, at that moment, they should have marched our butts right around and took us back to camp, but they didn't. We kept on going on the hike. We kept on going. We came across a man's wallet. It was an orange wallet. It had his driver's license in it and some credit cards, but no money. And we all passed it around, and I was the last one to look at this wallet. It had the Velcro, the early 80s style Velcro wallet. The Velcro to open it up. Probably about a $10 wallet, you know. It was cloth, nothing expensive. It was just an orange wallet. And, well, we kept on walking, but I was the last one to hold that wallet, and I chucked it to the left side. And we kept on walking. It got dark, you know. The staff members made us set up camp, get our sleeping bag out, because we didn't have no tents to sleep in. We were sleeping in our sleeping bags in the middle of the woods. So, get our sleeping bags out. They're making something for us to eat. I had a few marshmallows. That night and some Pop-Tarts, some strawberry Pop-Tarts. And I had some of my water out of my canteen that I was holding, for my water. And I remember distinctly zipping up my sleeping bag all the way up because I didn't want the bugs to get in my sleeping bag, And I, went to sleep. Well, a little bit later after that, it was dark time still. We were escorted into a craft, what you would call a UFO, the 7 of us. I was doing like a zombie walking not under my control, but like a zombie, like a puppet. I had no control over my body. I walked right into the craft and I laid down on the table. I laid on my left side, and they took out my right eye. They took out my right eyeball. They took out my eye. They shoved something up in my nose, and I heard a crunch. And also they put something in my right ear, And I was looking at the other table, and the little blonde-haired girl hiker, they were taking off her pants and examining her and doing the same stuff that they did to me. So after that, it was the lady's staff member. And, they maybe turned my attention towards where I was going to be sitting, which was in front of a console. I sat at a console with a whole bunch of buttons. So here I am, taking off my 50-mile hike deep in the woods in Mendocino County, California, getting abducted by extraterrestrials, receiving implants, and now I'm sitting at a console inside of the craft with a whole bunch of buttons. Now, what's a kid to do inside of a craft, sitting in front of a console with a whole bunch of buttons? What's a kid to do? Yeah, push the buttons. So, I was a part of the collective, a part of the crew through telepathy. I was learning about the console and what the buttons were about, basically. Obeying orders and helping drive a UFO. It's that easy. Through telepathy. I instantly learned about the craft that I was sitting in and about the functions of the craft. I instantly learned through telepathy. We were taken to some underground place where I was made to get some kind of a box cube. This box cube, it was big as a Rubik's Cube, just about as, what a Rubik's Cube is, just about as big as in a Rubik's Cube, but it wasn't a Rubik's Cube. It had it was like a color of a metal wood, and when you looked into it, it was moving, kind of like mercury. So, I was made to jump over bigger box cubes that looked like the same kind of box cube that I was to get in the underground cave. There were four tall extraterrestrials. Two were in a cutout part inside of the underground cave, watching the whole time. There was two right beside of me, and then there was a smaller one who was different in appearance than they are, which meaning that the extraterrestrial, the smaller one, was not the same kind of an extraterrestrial as that the tall ones were. Different kind of species. So I'm saying no, but they say go ahead and jump across. You know, it's kind of like a ravine. Well, it's not really like a ravine. It's more like a dip. And there's boxes everywhere, and I had to jump across these bigger boxes. And to go get the smaller one in the back in the underground cave. Well, I did it. I jumped over. And last jump, I jumped and I fell on my butt, and it was dirty, and I wiped I'm wiping off my butt. And I pick up the box cube, I look at it, and then I sit down on my butt because I'm looking at the two that are up above me, watching me. I'm looking at them, and I'm looking across to see who I'm looking at, and the other extraterrestrials from the other side, and I'm like crying. I'm looking into this box cube. I didn't know what's going on. I was just a little kid. And well, they started talking to me in my mind, telling me to come back, bring us back, bring us back the box cube that you're holding, that we made you to go get. And I'm like, no, I felt safe over there. They couldn't get me. So here I am in this underground city place, holding on to extraterrestrial technology, looking at extraterrestrials, and they're telling me to come back over to them. And I'm like, no, and I'm crying. And then finally one of the men's staff members with the curly hair, he comes around from the passageway and he yells at me, Kenneth, we got to go now. They want us to leave now. Let's go. And I'm like, no. And he goes, come on. They want us to leave now. Let's go. And I'm crying and I'm looking at the box cube and everything like this. And I finally get up and I'm like looking back to where I have to jump across again to get back to the other side. And I jump across and I passed the two talls. I passed the staff member. Then I passed the two talls that were standing next to him, and I handed the box cube to the smaller extraterrestrial. And I turned to look at the two who were watching me in the underground place, in the cutout, whatever they were looking out of. And I turned, and the smaller one, he put his hand on my right shoulder, and I shrugged it off, and I ran around the passageway, and I got back into the craft, and I put my head down at the console, like you do at a desk, Put my head down at the console that I was sitting at. And I felt all the other hikers come back on, and the extraterrestrials, and every time that someone took a step inside the craft, I can feel the whole craft going up and down like this, just a little bit, just a little buoyancy, like a boing, And we're all on the craft. The hatchway closes up, and we take up of this underground place, like at a speed 10, like on a DVD player, straight up, speed 10, like that fast. And I was like, whoa, And I'm pushing buttons again. And the next thing I know, I'm looking out the window, and I don't see no trees, I don't see no ground, I don't see no sky, I don't see nothing from outside the window. Everything was gray and black outside. We were time traveling. We were traveling in time. Nothing existed outside the window. One of the elders came up from behind me and told me that there's nothing outside the window to see. Everything is gone. Everything doesn't exist anymore. And I didn't understand that. We were traveling in time. Inside of the craft, Everything, time still goes for us. But on the outside of the craft, there's a field. Well, we on the inside of the craft are separated from all existence, from time, from everything. We are a singularity amongst ourselves, separated from all existence. We were time traveling. We came to a church. I crossed a wooden bridge to get to this church. It was nighttime. I opened up the big doors. I didn't know it was a church at first, though, you see. I opened up the big doors and I went inside, and I noticed when I went inside it was a church. And they had this water in one of the things that they baptize you in. I was drinking the water out of there. These people came up to me, and they were wearing these neck collar things, these clothes. Well, hold on for 1 second. They were wearing these funny clothes. Which I never seen people wear stuff like that before. And they were talking to me in a different language, which I didn't know. The church that I went to, I found myself in, was in ancient Romania in the 14th century. That's me, inside of the craft that everybody calls a UFO. This is the church in ancient Romania. This picture was made by one of the people who gave witness to me in the UFO in the 14th century, in the Renaissance era. I was traveling through time. It's recorded and documented by the people of the church, inside of the church, and recorded and documented by the people outside of the church. Many thousands of people. I was traveling in time, and that was recorded and documented in ancient Romania in the 14th century. This picture was made by someone in Romania in the 14th century. I didn't make this picture. I'm just recorded in it. It was the next morning because they allowed me to sleep there inside of one of the beds next to one of the monks. And, early in the morning, I walked back across the bridge from the church, and I got back on the craft, and we left. The next place that we were recorded was in the Second Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty. In the Second Ming Dynasty. We all got out of the craft. We were immediately seized by the Emperor's guards, and we were taken inside of the palace. Something bad happened to me there because I got in trouble. And I only know these things, so I only keep this private amongst myself. I got in trouble. A lot of trouble. But we were recorded, the 7 of us, in the Second Ming Dynasty. The third place we were recorded was in ancient Peru. In Peru, at a place that's high upon a mountainside that people call today the Chachapoyas. The Chachapoyas. I used to live in one of these hut houses right here. The The Chachapoyas are known as the Cloud Warriors. We're known as the Cloud Warriors. I used to walk up this each and every single day, so much that I sometimes made my elders very upset at me for just being a kid and bored and running around and, getting into mischief and stuff like this with the other children. My cousins, my brothers, my sisters, my uncles, my aunts, my father, my mother, of ancient Chachapoya, including one very beautiful looking blonde man with blue eyes who was one of the Cloud Warriors, who was an extraterrestrial. So this place is like a fortress. Something bad happened here a very long time ago. People from Machu Picchu came here and they invaded. They invaded us. We were peaceful people. We didn't do nothing. And they were murdering my elders. They cut off my elders' heads right in front of me. Now, when I got back onto the craft, my elder, who was driving the craft, came back for us. I got onto the craft and I went to Machu Picchu and I destroyed their village. There's a button on the craft. There's a button on the craft that is like a weapon. Well, it's a weapon. You push the button, and every time you push the button, destruction. I leveled Machu Picchu. I destroyed their village. I destroyed their religion because they murdered my elders right in front of me. I seen my elders getting their heads cut off, and I was just a child, and I didn't understand. And I was very emotional. I gave witness to something that changed me. Children today in the 1980s, we don't see people getting their heads cut off right in front of us. But because I was traveling through time, I had a traumatic experience about seeing this. And it changed me. And I took my vengeance upon them. I destroyed their religion. I destroyed their people. Because they killed my family. I will never forgive them. And I will never forget what they did to my family members. And I was happy there. We got back onto the craft. We took out of there. After I leveled Machu Picchu, we went traveling through time some more. I was taken back in time over 10,000 years. Here on these lands that people call today America. The only people who were here were the beautiful people of what you call today Indians. You call them Indians, America's First Nations people. There was no white man here. There was no government here. There was no stores here. There was no supermarkets here. There was no restaurants here. There were no cars here. There were no banks here. There was no government here. Only beautiful native indigenous people. All the animals and a lot of UFOs. A lot of extraterrestrials. You can see them when you look up at night. Just everywhere. Now, I wouldn't mate. I didn't want to have the sex. And that's one of my responsibilities that I was supposed to have. I was supposed to mate because I was a different human. And they knew that I would have, good genealogy, you know, they knew I was from the future because I told them, because I have implants. I told them through telepathy. It's something that I learned when I was inside the craft, driving the craft. I have extraterrestrial technology. I have implants. I can speak to people in their mind. Well, I used to anyway. Because my elders, thousands of years ago, they also had that gift. But humans have lost that gift today. You humans, you have lost that gift. But thousands of years ago, my elders here are native and ancient indigenous. They had that gift. Very spiritual, beautiful people. I told them. And I showed them inside of my mind. Well, I wouldn't mate. I wouldn't have the sex. So my elders of extraterrestrial in origin, they brought me back even further back in time. I was on the console inside of the craft, sitting at my console inside of the UFO, and I hit the highest numeric value on the console. 9999999, I filled up the console with nines, the highest numeric value. And we went back in time. And I know that's more than 20 million years. Try 100. Well, I got out of the craft, and I was immediately picked up by a giant taller than a telephone pole. And I'm a kid from the 1980s. I'm pretty smart when it comes to stuff like this. And the first words that were spoken in perfectly clear English over 20 million years ago were very loud words spoken by me. And these words were, "Put me down!" He had me in his hand like this. There was a hairy woman, a woman covered in hair, who was not human yet. And Eve, as in Adam and Eve, who was not a white woman. It wasn't even a human yet. She was covered in hair. She wasn't even human. She was jumping up at his leg because he was holding me up like this. She was jumping up at his leg because she thought I was something to eat. She wanted to eat me up. And I yelled at him, "Put me down." And he was like, "Whoa, you speak like that." And he put me high up on a rock where she couldn't get me. She couldn't eat me up because she thought I was something to eat. A couple of days pass. I'm climbing down from that very, very tall rock. I felt like I had all the world's oceans inside of me. All the world's oceans. A power. It was very weird. I felt like I had all the world's oceans inside of my little body. I got down off of that rock, and me and Eve, we had the sex. We made it. I helped make humanity. I helped create humanity. The missing link, you could say. The evolutionary jump. I'm one of your Adams. As an Adam and Eve. I was a time traveler. I was just a little kid. I've been recorded and documented all through history. But before we went all the way back that far and back in time, something happened to me. I fell off a rock. And I died and I went to heaven. I fell off a rock and I died and I went to heaven before my natural physical childbirth thousands of years ago because of time travel. Not a past life experience, not an incarnation. I physically died before my natural childbirth and I fought evil in heaven. I fought evil. And I have all the proof of it. What you see in my videos below is a picture of a child in heaven. That's me. A picture of a child recorded on a petroglyph, holding his hands up. That's me. And so are the other hikers recorded on petroglyphs. Over 10,000 years ago, over 20,000 years ago. This was before the great flooding of Earth. We were physically back in time because we were time traveling in a craft that everybody calls a UFO. These crafts, some of these crafts, they can actually travel in time. I know, I've done it. And I have all the proof of it. It's all over my walls. It's recorded all through history. And it's recorded by and documented by me in the videos below. You just have to look into my pictures, read the words that I write, and clearly understand what I'm saying. It's a lot of stuff that I've been through, you know? And I was just a little kid. So, you're giving witness to this. This isn't someone who's on drugs. This isn't someone who is crazy. I know more than all of you. I've physically been here for more than 20 million years. And I helped create humanity. I know a lot of things that people speak of are not true, including the Bible. This happened to me 40 years ago. 40 years ago when I was a kid. Documented and recorded all through history by people all through history. Recorded by me, by my elders, by me and by the extraterrestrials, and even from heaven. Even from heaven. So I know more than all of these scientists. I know more than the people at NASA. I know more than the people at Area 51. I know much more than any of these so-called ufologists. These so-called field investigators. To me, there's no such thing as an investigator. They're just people looking off the internet. Internet people is what I call them. Not investigator anything. So, I've been here a very long time. I know bullshit when I hear it and when I see it. You can't lie to me about anything because I know so much more than all of you. And I was just a little kid. And I've been looking the longest time to find the other hikers. And I don't think they truly want to be found because if they did, they would have said, hey, I love you, let's talk. Because they're probably pretty damn scared. But you know what? I had to get over that. I had to accept the truth. When I was a little child, about all of this. People today, they don't have to accept jack shit. But I have to accept it, because I'm right in the middle of it. Sometimes I cry at night, trying to go to sleep. I cry myself to sleep. I get so angry sometimes. Sometimes I laugh. Sometimes I'm so scared. I feel everything about it. It'll totally change your life, like it has mine. And if someone were to say something stupid to me and say something vulgar and be a smartass, I'll just block them. I don't have to hear anybody's bullshit. I've been through so much in my life. I know shit that would make the strongest man alive today cry and run like a little bitch, hide himself in the closet and shit and piss himself. And I was just a little kid dealing with it. I'm still dealing with it today. It's a lot of stuff. Well, I'm going to load the video up now so everybody can get a clue to actually what's going on. Me, I already know. Because I've been here the longest. And I was just a little kid. And I still have the strength and the courage to say that I love and I respect and I'm very thankful for all my relations. Amen.